This time on Beyond the Point, we return to North Wales Electric Mountain, home to the spectacular ruins of the Dinorwic Slate Quarry.
So, we're back at this amazing gem of the UK. It's Dinorwic Quarry. We came here 2 years ago and it was somewhere that I wanted to go for years. But when we went, we didn't really know our way around or where we were going. So today we're going to be going straight to some of the best abandoned bits, some of the best ruins in this place, where there's some old machinery, even some old workers' equipment. So let's go and take a look around. It's very cold, but I think we're going to have a good time.
Whilst the quarry is around 200 years old, it continued frequent use until 1969, when the quarry began collapsing and the slate industry declined. Our first point of interest was Anglesey Barracks. Despite the name, it had no military connection and was built in the 1870s to accommodate quarrymen travelling by boat, who would work for the week before returning to their families. Today, it is an incredibly photogenic spot. The simple yet peaceful existence of the cottages in the shadow of Mount Snowden contrasts against the quarrymen's tough industrial labour. As we continued our hike around the quarry, we were reminded that we wouldn't be the most adventurous visitors that day. As the altitude got higher, the sights only got stronger. Climbing up the slopes where slate would have been transported down the hills, we found more decaying workings. Whilst the quarry lies only a stone's throw away from Mount Snowden opposite, the beauty here of the layers of blue slate is more artificial than natural. But somehow it blends perfectly into the landscape, unlike any other industrial wasteland that we had seen. As we ascended, we finally reached an abandoned workshop.
So we've had to do a massive hike up this hill. It's very cold, very windy and very steep, but we've made it to, I think, the best thing that I've seen here so far. This is the old Cottage Shed, where they would have chiselled the slate into slivers so it was nice and thin, and they would have actually cut it up into squares, I suppose, shapes and rectangles to then export. They probably would have had to get it down to the lake and it would have been shipped off, I suppose. So yeah, all the saws and the pulleys, the cogs and that would have driven the saws with belts, it's all still left in here, right at the top, out of the way of the Joe public. Pretty cool.
Once the sound of this place would have been deafening, but it now stands silent. In places like these, it is difficult to decide whether their walls still carry the essence of life, or if they are merely skeletons from which the soul departed. It is unique places like these which make the Dinorwic Quarry a true national treasure. As the sun began to set, we couldn't help but feel as though we had been transported to a ghost town somewhere in America. Finally reaching the most interesting parts of the quarry, it felt as though we had struck gold. Beside Mount Snowden, we eventually made it to this row of buildings on the hillside. The quarry was powered by steam, and this was the compressor house which powered this level. This compressor was made in New York by Ingersoll Rand. And adjacent to this in the other room was the Tillman's compressor, made in Manchester and added later. The orange rust happened to match the glow of the sunset quite well, but as nice as it looked, we knew that our time was running out at the quarry. There was one final bit of the quarry to find, and with limited daylight we had to make it quick. We first passed a few more buildings as we navigated the quarry's treacherous paths and ramps. And then we got to it, the workers' cabin. Despite being moles from anywhere, a bivvy at the entrance suggested we weren't alone. Upon entering the building, we found a bunch of stoic wild campers who had taken refuge inside and kindly allowed us in. This place until recently featured original boots and clothes from the miners left as a time capsule in tribute, but we could find very few shoes left, with some looking suspiciously modern. Sadly, these artefacts appear to have been stolen or moved, part of the double-edged sword of these places gaining publicity. As much as the Dinorwic quarry cannot last forever and collapses more and more each year, it is still appreciated by many. From rock climbers to wild campers and urban explorers, this place still serves as a home for many. Having successfully completed our second visit, I'm sure it won't be long before our next visit to the lunar landscape of Dinorwic.